you need to have that foundational piece, right? To like know that people know that you do good work and that you execute well. But that leap to get to, from hard work to more strategic, to be seen, that is what I'm tackling with this book. It is one of the hardest jumps, I think, from sort of that mid-career level where you're rewarded on your hard work and execution, but when you're trying to get to that next level and to be seen a little bit differently, what got you there won't get you here.
Welcome to Amplify with Jess. If you're ready to amplify your ideas, your influence, and your income, then you're in the right place.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Amplify with Jess. So glad that you all are here because you will not want to miss today's guest. I started devouring her newsletter, pun intended, that I just thought of because her newsletter is called Career Bites, bite-sized tips to supercharge your career in 3 minutes or less. And if you're like me and you know this podcast, we like to keep it short, punchy, tell me what I need to know, and then let me continue on my day, which is how my new friend, Lorraine K works. And when I heard that she had a book coming out called Unforgettable Presence, I was like, we got to do this. We got to get Lorraine here on the show. And I have been obviously devouring your stuff, and some of the things that you share around presence, I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? Like crossing your arms versus opening your arms. So give me feedback, but also tell me some stuff about presence with body language that maybe we're not thinking about all the time.
Sure. You look great on your videos.
Thank you. Thank you. I know I need some work, so I'm not afraid.
I think, with this book, I'm redefining what presence means. And I think a lot of people, they think of, or they hear presence and they think of how I show up in a room, my executive presence. And what I'm saying is that presence, yes, executive presence is part of that, but your professional presence is so much broader. So it's about both how and where you're seen. So to your point, for example, body language, how you are seen, right? You don't want to be closed off, arms crossed in photos, in person, but also where you show up. So on video calls, right? You want to make sure that you're using your hands and being expressive and using your full body, and not limiting yourself to just your head on camera. So there's that really important combination where you're showing up well, but also making sure you're showing up in the right places and being seen by the right people as well.
Okay, I'm going to scoot back for people watching. So now I can use my
Your hands a little bit more. Yeah.
I have such a bad habit of just getting right into the screen, but you're right. I'm looking at you right now and you are back from your computer. So that way there's more of you
see more of my body. It feels like a little bit more like in person, right? Versus like virtual. So many of us are like ginormous head.
And you see my nose hairs from here? Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. Well, I mean, one of the things that I found really interesting when I was looking at some of your endorsements for Unforgettable Presence, and Daniel Pink said that if you ever felt like your hard work wasn't enough to move you forward, this book will change your perspective. And so my question that I think I'm really curious about is hard work enough?
Yeah, hard work is not enough, unfortunately. It should be, but it's not. And a lot of where this book stemmed from is from my own experience. I was a founding editor at LinkedIn. Loved my job there, loved everyone, worked on really interesting projects. I was well liked as well. I did great work. And as hard as or as much as I wanted it and as hard as I pushed, could not figure out how to get that promotion because I thought I'm working so hard. I'm doing everything that's asked of me. And it was only after I left LinkedIn and a lot of self-reflection where I was like, oh, I needed to know how to advocate for myself more, and I needed to know how to promote my work and to have the senior leadership team see me, right? Not just like the immediate team, but how can I make sure cross-functional partners see me and people who are in those promotion conversations. So hard work is important. And when I talk to Dan, like you need to have that foundational piece, right? To like know that people know that you do good work and that you execute well. But that leap to get to, from hard work to more strategic, to be seen, that is what I'm tackling with this book. It is one of the hardest jumps, I think, from sort of that mid-career level where you're rewarded on your hard work and execution. But when you're trying to get to that next level and to be seen a little bit differently, what got you there won't get you here.
Because there's a difference between being qualified to do the job and getting the job.
Yeah.
And I think, that's one of the reasons I work with women speakers only is because there's so much research and stats around like women won't apply for the job unless they're
Yeah.
100% qualified. Same
Yeah.
goes for speaking engagements and opportunities. And being qualified for it is step one. But then using your presence and your skills to get
Yes.
it is
Exactly.
steps two, three, four, five, six, and all of the rest of the domino effect.
Yeah.
So can you give us maybe some bite-sized
Mhm.
tidbits from Unforgettable Presence that maybe we're not thinking about all the time? Of course,
Mhm.
there's like well, stand up and look people
Mhm.
in the eye and some of those things. It's like, okay, we've heard that before. Is there anything that you're like, people should really be thinking about this?
Sure. Well, I think you touched on one of the most important ones is that you have to ask for it. And it sounds obvious, but we forget to ask, and we're also focused on ourselves. We're like, "Oh, of course, like, I have a great manager, or I have a," whoever it is, "and they're gonna advocate for me, and they're gonna speak up for me."
Mhm.
But, even asking once is not enough. Like, you have to make it known because people are distracted, especially in today's day and age. We are very distracted. We have our own challenges. If you're thinking about, a manager, like, they have a whole other team that they're dealing with. And so to ask for it and to make it known, I think sometimes that's like the first thing that you have to do. The second thing I would think about is this idea of sponsorship. Now, a lot of women, especially, are over mentored but under sponsored. And so, a
Mm.
mentor is someone who will coach you, who will guide you, who will share their own experiences, perhaps ask you probing questions to help you, figure out like what path you want to take or what the right direction is. But a sponsor is someone who will advocate for you, who will say your name when you're not in the room, and who will really open doors for you and unlock new opportunities. And so I think understanding that distinction, and we all need both at different points in our careers. But if you are trying to reach that next level, if you are trying to break into a space where perhaps you don't have as much experience, finding that person who you have that relationship with or build that relationship with, who sees something in you, who can sort of bring you up alongside of them, I think is very critical and very helpful and important, right? We don't just get places ourselves. It takes a village.
Over mentored, under sponsored. You just summed up what I've been trying to say for the past 10 years
Nice.
in 10 seconds. So that is brilliant. So when
Yeah.
it comes to kind of maybe finding some of these alliances and finding these sponsorships with people, because I agree, there has been people that are like, oh, I'll watch your footage and give you feedback.
Mhm.
There's that kind of mentorship. But then there's been people that are like, I'm going to go through my list of everywhere I spoke last year and I'm going to refer you to them. Like it is a very big
Yeah.
difference. Both are helpful, but one
Yeah.
is sponsorship, one is mentorship. But, I think that you talked about this with corporate Natalie, who I love,
Yes.
about the coffee dates and let
Yes.
me pick your brain and
Coffee
I
chat.
need your
Yeah.
help. People have so many choices of where they're spending their time. So how can you make spend your time with me and let me gain value from you more appealing to someone who can offer that sponsorship?
A lot of it, I think, stems down to or comes down to relationships. And these things take time, right? It's not like maybe if someone's really nice or whatnot, but like it's rarely going to be like, oh, I see someone who would be a great sponsor and I'm going to go up to them and with zero context are going to be okay helping me. And so building relationships is such a critical piece of the workplace, of our careers, and these things take time. And so you don't want to just be
Mm.
building relationships when you need something, but before that, you want to get to know them, you want to get to know their goals. How can you help that person as well? Because you don't want it to be just a one way relationship. And like you said, Jess, my conversation with corporate Natalie, a lot of us, when we go into coffee chats, it's like, oh, let me pick your brain for 15 minutes. But you want to give before you get. And so try to be as helpful as possible, show the value that you can provide. And one theme I saw through I interviewed nearly 3 dozen executives and thought leaders for my book. One of the things I saw that was a theme was sponsors will want to bring you up with them if they know that you're going to make them look good. And they're not
Mm.
going to they're not going to open doors for you if they don't think that you'll do that. And so, again, we talked about the hard work. Like, it is important that you do good work, not just hard work, but good work, right? They want to know that you are reliable, that you will deliver. And then you also need to build that relationship. And then again, ask for what you want. Like I know it's like sort of circular, like the advice we're giving, but you have to make it known, like what exactly is it that you're looking for? Make it as easy as possible. How can they help you? And then again, always try to return something. How can you help them reach their goals, or make your own introductions? And I think sometimes when we are perhaps younger in our careers, it can be hard to think like, oh, do I have something to offer? But we all have something to offer. You just have to
Mhm.
find what it is and what makes sense based on what you know about the person.
It reminds me of this approach that I like to take when I'm teaching in mic drop workshop of like, make any ask an offer, instead of, can I speak at your event? Here's what I can offer to your audience. Would this be helpful? And figuring out like, what is it that they need, what is it that I can offer. And like you said, even mentoring someone, like I am so excited to be mentoring this eighth grader right now
Oh,
who is the founder of Beautiful Curly Me. And it's about it's like she created this doll collection of dolls with naturally black hair, and she is absolutely crushing it. And I'm
yeah,
like, selfishly, I want to be associated with her because I know she
exactly.
is only going up from here. And so, of course, I'm going to take, an hour once a month to hop on a call and figure out how I can help her.
Yeah,
It's not, doesn't feel like charity work to me because I would love to be able to name drop her and feel associated with her. And so
exactly.
it's not always just this one way street that we might think in our head, which oftentimes inhibits us from like making the ask because we don't feel like it's an offer.
Yes.
When it comes to like boasting, you said something that I really liked. It was like promoting your work is not
Yeah.
boasting, like sharing the evidence of this is what I have done. Why do we, especially women, have such a tough time with this of sharing our accomplishments?
As women, when we share, I feel like we're just, I don't know, society has just brought us up in a way where we want to be more modest, where we don't want to be
Mhm.
like out there coming across as like loud or aggressive. But it really is important. Like I always share this analogy. What is it? Like if the tree falls in the forest, but no one's there to hear it, did it happen? And so like that's the
Mhm.
same with your work. Like if no one knows about it, like it's only going to get you so far. Like presence is how and where. So how you might be doing really wonderful work, but where, if it's not being seen anywhere,
Mhm.
then what's it all for, right? So it's really important to get our work out there, get our voice out there, and it doesn't have to be in an obnoxious way. Um, I talk about a few ways in the book, and you touched on one of them. Like, tie your work to the data, to the company's bottom line. Like, no one will fault you for that. Like, leaders will love to see that if you're positively impacting the bottom line. There's other things you can do as well. And there's some interesting research in Harvard Business Review that showed that when you use more collaborative language, like we did this or us as a
Mm.
team, you're actually seen as more of a leader versus people who use I statements were seen as more junior. So that should hopefully maybe alleviate some of the pressure where it feels like, oh, I'm just putting so much attention on me, like we're a team and we're doing this together. And you're seen as a leader when you can like uplift others as well. So it is really important to get your work out there. Again, like one concept in the book I talk a lot about is be the CEO of your own career,
Mm.
because again, like you might have the best manager in the world, but everyone's going to be most focused on themselves. So you really have to be proactive, really take things into your own hands, and it's going to benefit you in the long run.
It's so funny that, you say using we terms and
Yeah,
actually gathering the data because I'm such an obvious advocate for that. But when it comes to doing it yourself, I imagine maybe this is also like you promoting your book. It's like it can feel a little
well, yeah,
uncomfortable at times.
yeah,
But I've been working with a LinkedIn coach recently, Melanie Borden, and she's been awesome. And she's like, do you have testimonials of audience members or meeting planners of you speaking? And I'm like, literally boatloads over, the past speaking for
yeah,
10 years. And she's like, why aren't you sharing them? And I'm like,
yeah,
because it feels self serving to
yeah,
share those on my LinkedIn. She's like, but it's data. It's what
yeah,
someone said about you. It is
yeah.
like someone else's experience based on your expertise. And so I've been challenging myself and Jane, who's on my team, who's in the chat right now. I'm like, okay, once a week, we're sharing a testimonial about what someone said about working with us. And of course, it has gained traction, but it was such a weird mindset shift to
Yeah.
have to work on.
Same with me, like sharing testimonials, I'm still so uncomfortable. I probably should be doing it more. This is a good prompt to do that. But I have a book coach, Macy. She has a really good way of thinking about this, especially like talking about the book is like very much like me, like my book. If it can feel
Right.
like that. And she's like, if you don't share about the book, like that's selfish. Like you are um stopping, like you're not able to help as many people if they don't know about the book.
Yeah.
And
It's
I'm
like
like,
you're keeping a big
oh,
secret from them. And
yeah,
that's how
exactly.
I feel. It's like I hear these women who have just insane stories, these great takeaways, things that
Yeah,
people should know. And they're like, but I don't have a website. So clearly I can't do this. It's
yeah,
like, no, you're sitting on this big secret that people
yes,
should know.
yeah,
And one of the things that you also say is that your LinkedIn profile is your landing page, and you've obviously done an amazing job at that. One of the hesitations that some women have who are in mic drop workshop is like, okay, I work for XYZ company, but I also am, want to be a thought leader and I'm doing speaking and I want to encourage people, but I find it weird if my employer is seeing that. And
sure.
our response, and maybe you can help us with this, is like, your employer doesn't own your LinkedIn, you do. And so can you help maybe how someone who wants to share their thoughts and ideas on LinkedIn, but are worried about what people, especially their employer, might think?
Mhm. Yeah, to your point, I call LinkedIn the virtual water cooler, our ultimate virtual office, and our virtual
Yeah.
landing page. So it's like you got to be there.
Yeah.
You want to be seen there. And to your point, yes, your LinkedIn is your own. Like it is part of your brand, part of your presence. And so I'm happy that people on in your workshop like want to be more active on it. I think part of it is like an education piece. Like I think the concern sometimes is employers will see their employees on LinkedIn. They're like, oh, are they looking for another job?
Mhm.
Are they getting distracted from the job that we hired them to do? And just from my own experience and talking to many other corporate professionals who have a side hustle or doing something extra, when you can build a strong presence and brands on LinkedIn, it helps
It
you in
helps
your
the
current role
company.
and it helps your company. Like they get all this free, positive, organic brand awareness, especially since you're working with speakers. Like they're going to panels and like people are mentioning and seeing the company name. Like that is wonderful association and advertising for the company at no cost to them, right?
Yeah.
And so that's an important thing to educate them on if that might be their concern. And then just from my own example, like me being more active on LinkedIn, speaking more, opened up the door to more opportunities internally. People sort of saw me as more of a leader because being on LinkedIn is scary. And the fact that you're willing to take that step and to be out there and put yourself out there, make people view you more positively. And then people saw me speaking. And so I remember like I had this colleague, I don't know if he was out on vacation or sick or something, but we had this media roundtable and he wasn't there. And they were like, Lorraine, like, can you step in? And I made those connections back then. I was like, now in my own business, like that ended up being like a consulting client and just like really wonderful connections, just like a Fortune 500 company. So very cool to be able to do that. And then I got tapped to do more things like, oh, Lorraine feels comfortable speaking and putting her insights out there. Let's invite her to speak at the all hands or at the marketing
Mm.
meeting. So there's a lot of trickle down effects that are very positive, even if you're at a company.
That is so helpful. And again, it goes back to like making the ask the offer, going from like, I don't want my company to see me out here becoming a thought leader, but also the offer is I'm providing value the
So
more I
much.
build my professional presence. So tell me about what are the different presence personas and how should we be thinking about them?
Yeah, so there's four, but it's a range from, more of like a hidden gem, the hesitant hard worker, all the way up to someone who does have a really strong presence, but there are ways where you can amplify that a little bit more. And so I think it's important to remember that presence is a spectrum, right? Sometimes, again, we think of presence, executive presence, we're like, oh, we have to come in, we have to be a certain way, we have to have the gravitas and the charisma and all that. But it's something that anyone, or professional presence more broadly, is something that anyone can learn, can get better at any stage of your career And you might start down here, but then you're going to grow up here. And to remember that presence spans a lot of different categories, which hopefully is an exciting thing for people who maybe feel like it's out of reach. So your LinkedIn presence, how you lead meetings, how you present virtually and in person, how you advocate for yourself, even how you communicate in Teams or Slack, how you show up on your video platform of choice, like all of these different elements. And as long as you're very intentional about it, and the book is meant to be a very tactical guide for that, you will build your presence up and you will grow your confidence the more you see that your presence is strengthening and that others are perceiving you in a very positive way.
And, is there, because you also talk about, and I want to end with this because I think it's really important that some
Sure.
people feel like their personality type prohibits them from being someone who is widely likable or courageous or having a good presence. We hear this with introverts that there's like this introvert bias at work because they're not the one that's like, I have the idea.
Sure.
They're probably more in the back of the room. For someone who maybe isn't this person in
Mhm.
the room, for someone who isn't the one that's like super eager to get up in front of people, how can you still master your presence without being loud?
Mhm. I'm an introvert. So I've been able to do it. And I know sometimes it can feel frustrating. Yeah, like corporate America feels like it's built for the louder people and extroverts. But I think it's important to remember that introverts have so many strengths, right? Like we are really strong communicators. We might not be the loudest and comfortable speaking up in a meeting, right, on the fly, but we will be able to listen and process and make connections afterwards and summarize concisely what was said and remember like what might need to be done and think more strategically about like, oh, okay, we need to bring in this person and that person. And so to remember like you have various strengths. So that's one strength. Another strength is that you're really great at one-on-one relationship building. And so we talked about how relationships are really the foundation of like anything getting done in business. And so the fact that you're able to connect with people in that way, that's invaluable. And then the last thing I would say is like preparation. Introverts are so good at preparing. So public speaking. I know it doesn't seem like something that is made for introverts, but it's actually the perfect medium. I think it's a more controlled way of public speaking. You get
Yes.
to practice a lot. You get to prepare, and so there's a lot of ways that you can still stand out at work while being authentic to yourself. And yeah, you're not going to be the loudest person, but like also when you're leading meetings, I'm just like all these ideas. When you're leading meetings, you're going to be really thoughtful to make sure everyone's voice is included. And research shows more diverse voices, right, are going to come up with better ideas. So there are a lot of ways that you can stand out and really establish your leadership presence at work. And so don't think of it as a hindrance, but definitely it's a strength.
It's a superpower.
Yeah.
Lorraine, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
Definitely pick up Unforgettable Presents wherever books are sold. What's the pub date again? April 22nd?
April 22nd. I'm trying to
Okay.
hit 600 pre-orders by that date. So we're at about 350. So any support is very appreciated and
We
excited
will
to see you
help.
all. Yeah.
We will help. Yes,
Yay.
for sure. I am sure you will crush that number.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for being here. And if you haven't taken Lorraine's presence persona quiz, we will leave that for everyone as well. And I hope you all have a great day. And thank you again, Lorraine, for being here.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Amplify. If you're a fan of the show, show us some podcast love by giving us a rating and review. This episode is brought to you by Mic Drop Workshop, where you can learn how to become a better speaker, how to land paid speaking gigs, and become a keynote speaker. This episode was edited and produced by Walk West. I'm Jess Ekstrom, reminding you that you deserve the biggest stage, so let's find out how to get you there. I'll see you again soon.